and welcome. So, I have caught wind that there is some debate of whether the Sancti Tigris, or the Tigris Prime, is a more powerful weapon, and rather than simply make a declaration, I thought we'd take this opportunity to try to learn something about how these shotguns work in general. So, the first thing I'm going to do is, I'm going to throw on a raw damage mod, including Vicious Spread, which I wouldn't recommend, but I am trying to give this weapon as much of a leg up as I possibly can over the competition. So we've maxed out our corrosive damage about as high as we can get it, and I'm going to go ahead and stand very close to the enemy so that the Vicious Spread does not negatively affect our damage by causing our pellets to miss. So let's go ahead and spawn 3 level 100 Corrupted Heavy Gunners. These enemies are tankier than just about anything you would ever see in a sortie. So, go ahead and take my chest shots. So 5 shots total. And I think these are actually really consistent in terms of how many shots it takes to kill these enemies. So exactly 5 on each of the heavy gunners. That's not too bad. But what I want to do now is switch over to a status build. Now, Sancti Tigris cannot reach 100% status without this particular mod, Nano Applicator, which recently became available, so hopefully some of you managed to get a hold of it. However, this mod is a pain in the ass to use because you have to be aiming in order for the effect to take place, and you also have to have cast an ability within the previous 9 seconds. So, we've got all of our dual stat mods on here, plus this, and in case you're wondering, Shotgun Savvy is not enough, and honestly doesn't do anything anyway, so don't bother with it. And we've got our Blaze mod on here, just to keep our base damage a bit higher, and we're running Viral, Radiation Viral, so that the Viral proc will cut the enemy's health in half, and then Slash procs. Since we will be getting a proc with every single pellet we are shooting while Nano Applicator is active, we should see quite the impressive amount of bleed damage going on. So, let's take our heavy gunners again, toss this out, that'll count as our ability cast, take our chest shot, and as you can see, this enemy is taking quite a bit of damage over time. Not quite enough for it to die, and as you can see, Nano Applicator ran out because I have not cast an ability that recently, so let's go ahead and cast our one. Take another shot. As you can see, they're taking a lot more bleed damage yet again from the significantly higher status chance. And I think you'll see if we put a couple of shots with Nano Applicator active in each of these enemies, they are going to go ahead and go down. So, about the same time to kill against our heavy gunners. However, this build would actually perform better against every other enemy type, including enemies with alloy armor as opposed to ferrite armor. Now, when we switch over to the Tigris Prime, what you're going to notice is, well, you're going to notice a few different things, but the main emphasis, I think, should be placed on the additional 5% status chance. Now, up front, that may not seem like a big deal, but what this does is allows us to build 100% status into this weapon, thereby bypassing the shotguns. Way shotguns work is if you don't have 100% status, the status chance is divided evenly between the pellets, but when you have 100% chance, literally every single pellet will proc a status of some kind. So, we're going to do the same thing we did, no Nano Applicator, which means we'll get to use Sweeping Serration. This isn't going to help our damage that much against armor, but what it is going to do is increase the likelihood that we will get Slash procs as opposed to our other procs, and we'll be getting a Viral proc regardless because we're shooting enough pellets, so we don't need to worry about procking either one of these more than once, and these two don't actually help our damage as far as status procs go. Anyway, so, once again, let's take a little bit of energy, spawn our heavy gunners, and fail our first throw of Bastille. And I don't actually have to cast an ability to keep it going. I also don't have to be aiming down sights. I'm just showing it to you. So that enemy bled out from a single shot, which we couldn't quite do with the Sancti Tigris. This one is going to follow suit. And this one's going to be a little closer. I don't think he's actually going to be finished off. So we'll go ahead and clean him up. And as you can see, that was significantly better than the Sancti Tigris could do. Now, this build is going to be good against pretty much any enemy faction you might be facing, including armored enemies. And the fact that it's radiation based also helps against your alloy armor enemies. However, if you want to target armor specifically as opposed to other things, let's say you're facing Grineer, and I'm going to clear up the clutter there, you can run something like this, where you have all 4 of your dual stat mods and 2 mods towards corrosive. What this is going to do is increase the likelihood of us getting corrosive procs versus our other damage types. As you'll see, we've lost our blaze mod, and I did test it with this configuration, and the additional damages here ended up hurting the damage against armor more than just running straight as much corrosive as we can get. Now, one last time, and if you'll recall, when we used the Sancti Tigris with the most damage we could get out of it, we were taking a little more than 2 shots to take these guys down. However, now we get to run 100% status, and our burst damage is significantly higher. And as you can see, if I get right up next to them, they take a massive amount of damage. If I mix in headshots, that was actually a little bit unlucky there, but we went ahead and took him out in one shot anyway. Burst damage, much higher on our corrosive build. So, not to play favorites, and of course the Sancti Tigris still has the corrosive AoE proc for your syndicate, so it definitely has that as an advantage. And I'm not going to sit here and try to declare that one weapon is better than the other. However, I definitely think the Tigris Prime has more advantages than the Sancti Tigris. So, if you enjoyed this video, and especially if you happen to have learned anything, please go ahead and leave me a like and throw me a follow on Twitch, which I have linked in the description. I would really appreciate it, and have a nice day.